Welcome. Tonight, PDP presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar says persons living with disabilities will have a prominent place in his government if elected president in 2023. APC presidential candidate Bola Tinubu arrives in the United Kingdom ahead of his engagement at the Chatham House, where he's billed to speak on security, economy and foreign policy. Lagos State Governor Sanwo-Olu presents his scorecard for the last 3.5 years as he officially kicks off his re-election campaign. And Russia says it will not accept a cap on prices for its oil exports, approved by Western allies.
And on business news tonight, all eyes on OPEC and its allies as cartel prepares to hold its final oil output meeting for the year tomorrow.
On sports news tonight, the Netherlands become the first country to reach the quarterfinals of the 2022 World Cup after beating the United States 3-1 at the Khalifa International Stadium. We begin with politics. The presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, Mr. Atiku Abubakar, is promising that persons living with disabilities will have a prominent place in his administration if he wins next year's presidential election. The PDP flag bearer, who was speaking when he met with the group in Abuja today, also promised to implement the law passed by the National Assembly to make life more comfortable for persons with disabilities.
The 3rd of December every year is marked as the International Day for Persons with Disabilities, and in company of several stalwarts of his party, the People's Democratic Party PDP presidential candidate, Mr. Atiku Abubakar, is meeting with persons with disabilities. The campaign council promises to feature persons with disabilities prominently in campaign activities of the party.
We'll go beyond just that audience or that community. We will integrate them to ensure that they are not excluded in all our campaign activities.
For the candidates of the party, only his emergence as president can ensure their needs are met.
Even though Persons with Disability Act was passed by our National Assembly, the APC government has refused to implement it. Yes, sir. You have absolutely no reason to vote for APC. This is the party that recognizes your rights as human beings and is prepared to respect your rights. Therefore, I'd like to appeal to you to make sure that you go out and you identify your membership and call them personally to make sure that they vote, and not only they vote, but they vote for the party that cares for you, and that is the PDP.
After the meeting, a member of the PDP Presidential Campaign Council calls on Nigerians, civil society organizations, and international community to prevail on the candidates of the ruling All Progressive Congress, APC, to sign the peace accord, as this will help douse the tension in the polity.
The vice president cannot sign for the presidential candidate. The vice presidential candidate cannot sign for the presidential candidate. The agreement was that when he returns, he will go to the peace committee and sign the accord. Since he came back, he has neglected or refused to go to sign the accord. So the accord has not been signed by the APC. The presidential candidate of APC is, by not signing the accord, is signaling to Nigerians that he doesn't want to keep to the terms of a peaceful election. And I think that's dangerous for this election.
As the 2023 general elections draw near, politicians will make many promises to various interest groups. However, Nigerians are hoping they will fulfill the electoral promises if elected.
Meanwhile, the All Progressive Congress presidential candidate, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is now in the United Kingdom ahead of his scheduled engagement at the Chatham House in London on Monday. A statement by the Director of Media and Publicity for the APC Presidential Campaign Council, Mr. Bayo Ononuga, says Mr. Tinubu, who left the country earlier today, will be speaking on security, economy, as well as foreign policy at the Chatham House. The statement adds that this is part of his schedule of campaign activities as well as other engagements within and outside the country. In Abuja, the APC Presidential Campaign Council is appealing to all registered voters who are yet to collect their permanent voter cards to take advantage of the December 12th to January 22 window provided by INEC so that they can actively participate in electing Nigeria's next president. The appeal is coming from the Secretary of the APC Campaign Council, Mr. Abiodun Falike, at the opening of a grassroots mobilization office for the party's candidate and his running mate.
We pray that by the grace of God, come February 25th, we will win this election. Elections will be free and fair. We are urging, and we use this opportunity to tell Nigerians to please go out and collect your PVCs. It is important for you to pick your PVCs. INEC has, I'm told INEC has released the newly registered PVCs for all members across the states. Please go to where you register and collect your PVC. Your PVC is your weapon. You want this country to change, you need that PVC. I think that Nigeria should expect a greater Nigeria. Nigeria will be better. Nigeria is good, is great. Let me tell you, what is happening to Nigeria, if it had happened to other African countries, they would have been wiped out of existence. Okay, but here, Nigeria is great, Nigeria is good, and we are going to make it greater. Integrity matters, your pedigree matters. The pedigree of Bola Ahmed Tinubu and Shetima are the one pushing Nigerians forward to do what they are doing.
From Abuja to Lagos in the southwest, where Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu is appealing to Lagosians to go to the polls come 2023 and vote for the candidate of the All Progressives Congress at all levels. While officially flagging off his campaign with a rally at the Mobolaji Johnson Arena in Onikon, Lagos, Governor Sanwo-Olu said his administration has worked tirelessly in the last 3.5 years to deliver the dividends of democracy and will continue under the Lagos is rising agenda if voted again.
It's the official flag-off of the governorship campaign in Lagos, and party supporters turn out in their numbers at the Mobolaji Johnson Arena in Onikon. Cheers from the crowd greets Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu and his deputy as they make their way into the grounds with chieftains and members from across the 20 local government areas and the 37 local council development areas. The Lagos State Campaign Council boss welcomes all to the rally.
I welcome you all. And I want you to be very attentive as we have here to speak to us Mr. Governor himself and whatever he has done for the past 3.5 years.
The state governor also reels out his achievements in the past 3.5 years.
We have seen rail in Lagos for the first time in over 40-50 years. That will be an intra-city rail project. We have completed it. We are going to be handing it over to you. We have seen our commitment on all of our BRT corridors. First line buses, BRT buses, last mile buses. We have seen new taxis, development of ferry terminals in 17 locations in Lagos.
Staying on the strength of his achievements, he appeals to all to return him as governor come 2023.
That the greater Lagos rising is because we still have a lot of job to do. That's why we have come out here with our team that you want to ask that you vote for us. You go out there, you canvass vote from house to house, and you deliver both our senators, both our House of Rep members, both our House of Assembly members, and of course, our presidential candidates.
Now that the governorship rally has taken off, the next stop will be one of the local government areas in the states, but it's left to Lagosians to choose who they think is the right man for the job come 2023.
The Labour Party has finally released this manifesto tagged "It's Possible," which will be formally unveiled to Nigerians tomorrow, December the 4th. A statement by the party's head of media for the Presidential Campaign Council, Mr. Diro Onifade, says Nigerians will see a manifesto that the candidate was actively involved in its production, unlike other parties where the candidates have no idea of the contents in the manifesto as they are prepared entirely by third parties. The 62-page document titled "Our Pact with Nigerians, Creating a New Nigeria" ends weeks of speculations on the release of the Labour Party's manifesto. The document itemizes some of the candidates' plans for the country if elected in 2023, including the economy and security. The former President Olusegun Obasanjo has been hosting the People's Democratic Party Presidential Campaign Council leaders in Abuja-Kaduna, the Ogun State capital. The team was led by the party's vice presidential candidate and governor of Delta State, Dr. Ifeanyi Okowa. Others in the team include the Director General of the Presidential Council and Governor of Sokoto State, Aminu Tambuwal, and the former Governor of Jigawa State, Sule Lamido, amongst others. Speaking after a 2-hour closed-door session, Governor Tambuwal said the team was in Abeokuta to pay respect and to continue to consult the former president on matters of national interest. Governor Tambuwal also hinted that the party is expecting a rousing welcome at his presidential campaign in Lagos on Monday. When the bill for an act to establish the National Electoral Offences Commission becomes law, it will be easier to deal with electoral offenders quickly. This is coming from the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, Professor Mahmood Yakubu. While speaking at a meeting with some journalists in Lagos, Professor Yakubu appealed to the National Assembly to pass the Electoral Offences Bill into law so the country can deal decisively with electoral offenders.
We have said consistently that there are issues. How do you successfully prosecute? You have to make arrest. INEC has no police. Secondly, you have to investigate. That will provide you with the evidence that will lead to successful prosecution. We have no capacity to conduct these investigations. And thirdly, some of the electoral offenders may be officials of the commission, regular or ad hoc. How do we prosecute ourselves? So consistently since 2009, committees set up on electoral reform have recommended that there should be an Electoral Offences Commission and Tribunal, to which all violators of Electoral Commission will be subjected. Ways recommended it in 2009, the Lemu Committee after the 2011 post-election violence, and in 2017, the Ken Namani Committee made the same recommendation. Why is it that we have not, as a nation, established the Electoral Offences Commission and Tribunal? But happily, the Senate, through private members' bills, have proposed, and the proposal has gone through first and second reading. We were invited to the public hearing. We supported it. And not too long ago, the House of Representatives. So we are waiting for the concurrence of the two chambers of the National Assembly to establish this Electoral Offences Commission and Tribunal, relieve the Commission of this responsibility, and this will lead to speedier, in our view, speedier prosecution of electoral offenders. So may I seize this opportunity to once again appeal to the National Assembly for expeditious consideration of the bill, so that this commission will be established as soon as possible.
In part two, after the break, Nigeria Railway Corporation to resume the Abuja-Kaduna passenger train service on Monday, December the 5th, with new security measures. That's in a moment. Join us again. If you just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television. A reminder of our top stories. PDP presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar says persons living with disabilities will have a prominent place in his government if elected as president in 2023. APC presidential candidate Bola Tinubu arrives in the United Kingdom ahead of his engagement at the Chatham House, where he's billed to speak on security, economy and foreign policy. Labour Party presidential candidate Peter Obi to unveil his manifesto tagged "It's Possible to Nigerians" on Sunday. And Russia says it will not accept a cap on prices for its oil exports approved by Western allies. Vice President Professor Yemi Osinbajo has left the country for Vietnam for high-level bilateral engagements in the southeast nation, including meetings with the President of Vietnam, other government officials and the Nigerian business community. His reciprocal visit to Vietnam will further strengthen trade and bilateral relations between both countries. In view of the trade and bilateral relations between both countries, the then Deputy Prime Minister of Vietnam had visited Nigeria in 2019 and met with Professor Osinbajo, other senior Nigerian government officials, and also interacted with the Nigerian-Vietnam Business Association. While in Vietnam, the Vice President is expected to witness the signing of a Memorandum of Understanding and agreements on investment. He will also hold high-level diplomatic discussions with his Vietnamese counterpart on issues of trade, commerce, agriculture, technology, innovation, amongst others. Nigeria's multiple award-winning investigative journalist, Mr. Musiliu Mojeed, has chronicled dozens of letters written by former President Olusegun Obasanjo to people in authority. The compilation, which includes some secret letters of the former president, was launched in Abuja in a book titled The Letterman. Many prominent Nigerians who attended the book launch strongly believe that the book contains valuable lessons of courage, bravery, and patriotism.
And I'm always confused how to answer.
Former President Olusegun Obasanjo is renowned for his strong worded letters to people in positions of authority, especially when things are not going the way he feels they should. While most of those letters were open letters to presidents, prime ministers, and military administrators, the majority of his letters are private.
Understand the effect of letter writing.
Thanks to Nigeria's investigative journalist, Mr. Musiliu Mojeed, whose unquenching curiosity has culminated in the publication of the book The Letterman, which is being launched here. The 492-page book is a compilation of 25 letters from the former president covering different issues, including some classified military information during the Nigeria Civil War, Nigeria's foreign relations, and his personal affairs.
Obasanjo balked with bare knuckles in terms of his communication over things he felt very strongly about. As you will see, there is a stubborn streak in the quality of the letters and even the people that he addresses. And I'm saying to myself as I'm reading these letters, has the military changed? Was the military just some casual classroom in the 60s? Because how could Obasanjo write all these kind of things and get away with them?
The author gave some insight into his work.
I spent 3 days. He allowed me, but they said you can't take anything away from the library, you can't photocopy anything from the library because the library was not open. But, you know, another thing was I took copious notes.
His findings changed his perception of the former president.
I could see through Obasanjo's letter the influence Nigeria wielded, not just in Africa, but around the world. Most African countries, they run to Nigeria for solutions to their problem. And the way even Margaret Thatcher, the way, remember it was, I think the first visit of an American president to Nigeria was during Obasanjo. You could see, even though Obasanjo had friendship with Jimmy Carter, you could see how firm and strongly. Look, if Jimmy Carter says a thing he doesn't agree with, that is not in tandem with what Nigeria believes, Obasanjo will stand up to Jimmy Carter. So one thing that I learned is that Nigeria has lost its place as a strong nation.
The occasion is one that also affords some former cabinet members and those who served in other capacities under former President Obasanjo to reminisce.
It was an honor and a privilege to serve under you, sir. I dare say it here and now. The best cabinet that we ever had in this country was the cabinet that you formed in 2003 up until 2007.
For the man that is under the spotlight, some of the letters in this book brought a feeling of nostalgia and a bit of disappointment about Nigeria's position in the Committee of Nations.
Like Musikilu said, that I have forgotten. And he dug them up. He presented them. And when I read some of the letters, I marveled. But when Nigeria became independence, it was a giant in the sun. That was the expectation of the world about Nigeria. Have we lived up to it? No.
As a former military head of state and the two-term elected president of Nigeria, former President Olusegun Obasanjo is a man of many pasts, of whom more books can be written.
We're indeed grateful.
In honor of another former leader, the Enugu State Governor, Ifeanyi has commissioned the Zik Center in the state to keep the memory of Nigeria's first president, Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe, alive. The center, which is his old residence when he was the premier of the Eastern region, was renovated to retain its original architectural design, housing some of his personal items like letters, books, pictures, and more.
This building, situated at the New Market Road in Enugu State, southeast Nigeria, was the residence of the first Nigerian president, Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe, when he was premier of the Eastern region. Gathered here are traditional rulers, lawmakers, friends and family of the late president to mark the fulfillment of a promise kept, the transformation of the residence to serve as a monument and tourist attraction. Governor Ifeanyi arrives at the venue for the commissioning of the Nnamdi Azikiwe Center and to officially declare it open for public use.
Thank you, Jesus.
His widow is highly pleased with the governor's commitment towards upholding his legacy.
Anybody visiting Enugu State should come here and see the history of Eastern region. And this center goes to support what we say in our national anthem. Whatever our heroes, the sacrifices of our heroes, the labors of our heroes, the pains of our heroes will never go in vain.
And for his son, it's an opportunity for learning.
You will learn about how he led the battle until Nigeria got her independence, became a republic, and his name was mentioned in the 1963 Constitution as the president of Nigeria, the only time it has been done.
You will learn about his involvement in the Civil War in his own words and not stories being told by others.
The Obi of Onitsha wants the same feats to be replicated for Azikiwe's compatriots for history and educational purposes.
It's an opportunity for us to learn, not only about Nnamdi Azikiwe here, but about his compatriots, about his relationships, and about what he did to other people, and so on and so forth. My prayer is that more centers like this will emerge for Michael Okpara, for Akane Biam, for Bafemi Awolowo. The family has done something, etc., etc.
And for Governor Ogwai, upholding the history of a man who played a strategic role in the independence of Nigeria is rewarding.
We were persuaded by the worthy legacies of this outstanding statesman to embark on the Zik Center project, comprising a museum for Zik's personal items, pictures, quotes, poems, letters, speeches, articles, and tributes.
The vision of the multipurpose monument is to immortalize, propagate, and perpetuate the leadership ethos, patriotic ideals, and scholarly insights of the late legend. And the Ifeanyi Ugwuanyi-led administration is pleased to make this a reality.
So other issues now. Credits, especially in the mortgage sector for small and medium enterprises, is necessary for growth. That's coming from the Minister of Finance, Mrs. Zainab Ahmed, who was speaking at the unveiling of the National Institute of Credit Administration Establishment Act in Lagos. The unveiling had in attendance top officials of the NICA and representatives of some state governments. For the National Institute of Credit Administration, it's an epoch-making event as the body unveils the National Institute of Credit Administration Establishment Act, which was signed into law in August this year. For the Institute, it's been a dream of 30 years come true.
Indeed, it's a dream of many years made possible after operating the former Institute of Credit Administration without national recognition for 3 decades. Professor Chris Onalo, your name will always be in the books of eminent Nigerians for being instrumental to the emergence of credit management profession in Nigeria.
Helping Nigeria transit from a cash-based economy to a credit economy is what the NICA is pushing. As it says, there is no advanced society where credit is not in use, as this helps to grow the economy.
We are looking forward to a bigger and greater professionalism in the practice of credit management and being able to equally influence the direction of the economy so that this country can sit comfortably in the summit of nations that practices credit economy.
For the Taraba state government, credit has helped the state grow.
Without the credit facility, all the achievement recorded by the administration wouldn't have been able to record such achievement.
The Minister of Finance, Mrs. Zainab Ahmed, is representing the President at this occasion. She's quick to say that credit, especially in the mortgage sector, is imperative.
But that is a gap that we have identified that we need to bridge, especially in the mortgage market, but more especially in credit that is to be availed for small, medium enterprises. It is, however, imperative to state that credit at any level or in any sector, if not properly managed, would spell doom for an economy.
And she does the honors of unveiling the act. The National Institute of Credit Administration, now chartered, is a prestigious body of credit management elites in the country. The Nigeria Railway Corporation will resume the Abuja-Kaduna passenger train service on Monday, December the 5th, with only 2 return services. The announcement is contained in a statement by the NRC Managing Director. According to the statement, the first train will depart Rigasa train station in Kaduna State to Abuja by 8 a.m., while from Abuja, the first train will leave Idu train station to Kaduna State by 9:45 a.m. The NRC management says as part of the new security measures, it is now compulsory for passengers to present their national identity number and valid boarding tickets before they are allowed to board. It adds that purchase of tickets by proxy is only limited to minors and specified number of adult passengers. Online and mobile app ticketing will be available from 8 a.m. on Sunday, December the 4th, while ticket offices at the train station will open from 6:30 a.m. on Monday, December the 5th. Now to the controversy about the rising poverty index in the country and allegations by the Minister of State for Budget and National Planning, Mr. Clement Agba, that the governors of the 36 states are complicit. The Nigeria Governors Forum has reacted to the accusations by the minister, describing his comments as unnecessary and diversionary. According to the governors, the assertion by the minister that they have all abandoned the rural areas is not only preposterous and without any basis, but also very far from the truth. The governors believe the reverse is the case, and that in this scenario, the dereliction the minister talked about lay strictly at the doorstep of the federal government. The governors asked top government functionaries to always provide Nigerians with proper answers rather than pointing fingers on soft targets, which does not help matters. The National Bureau of Statistics recently adjudged Ondo as the state with the lowest number of poor people in its 2022 Multidimensional Poverty Index report, MPI. The Multidimensional Poverty Index, in economic terms, refers to the level of poverty and deprivation that poor people in a given geographical area experience. Ondo, one of the 6 states in the southwest geopolitical zone of Nigeria, according to the MBS, is having an MPI score of 0.095. This indicates that poor people in the state suffer just 9.5% of all possible deprivations, compared with 25.7% for Nigeria as a whole. Our next report takes a look at Ondo State's ranking and how the feat was achieved.
The MBS report shows that 63% of the 211 million population, that is 133 million people, are multidimensionally poor. Having an MPI of 0.257, it implies that about a quarter of the poor people in Nigeria suffer all possible deprivations. An MPI score of 0.095 in the report indicates that poor people in Ondo State suffer just 9.5% of all possible deprivations, compared with 25.7% for Nigeria as a whole. Speaking with Channels Television, the Commissioner for Economic Planning and Budget in Ondo State, Pastor Emmanuel Igbason, reveals how Ondo State was able to achieve this feat. According to him, the MBS report is not unexpected, as all the policies and programs of Ondo State government have been people-oriented.
Because of this people-oriented, we've made people the fulcrum of our public financial management. We are not surprised to have this result. Any average Ondo man is a proud man, not proud in the sense of being a proud person, but proud in their own enterprise. That they are so industrious and enterprising, right from the young ones to the old ones. They will find one thing or the other to do.
Being an agrarian state, Pastor Igbason notes that Ondo State government has been partnering with relevant, credible organizations to impact farmers in several ways in order to boost their productivity. Rotimi Ogunleye is a financial expert. He views the phenomenon from the areas of security, infrastructure, as well as the industrious nature of the Ondo people.
So many people have moved into the business of agriculture. And the incentive probably could have been that so many foodstuffs and cereals have been banned, and all of these foodstuffs and cereals that are banned, they don't find themselves into our market through importation, so they need to be produced locally. But for the fact that the state has been able to manage the issue of insecurity very well, people have that confidence to remain in their farm. Those who could get access to loan and the training opportunities and window of financial assistance that are created by government.
Residents of the state also air their views on the NBS report.
There are certain parameters for measuring poverty. What's the rate of unemployment? Does the people have areas to exploit and do things? What is their ability? What is the security situation? And what is the enlightenment level?
So we'll have to check balance on those states in all of this. I mean, in these 5 aspects. In terms of health system, are we doing well? Our medical facilities and health system, is it fantastic? In terms of security, how are we doing? In terms of education, unemployment, and security, how well are we doing?
The Multidimensional Poverty Index is a poverty measure that reflects the multiple deprivations that poor people face in the areas of education, health, and living standards. According to the 2022 report, multidimensional poverty is higher in rural areas where 72% of the people are poor, compared to 42% in urban areas.
In the aftermath of the flood that ravaged most states of the Federation, the International Fund for Agricultural Development, IFAD, has released $5 million for intervention and recovery growth plan to the affected farmers. The national team leader, Mr. Samuel-Olu, disclosed this at a meeting with Governor Sanwo-Olu after the fund's midterm review meeting in Makurdi, noting that Benue farmers, like many others across the nation, suffered a lot from this year's flood crisis, but help is on the way.
Benue State is widely known as a food basket of the nation because of its rich agricultural produce, but sadly, the aftermath of this year's flood disaster on farmland is one that seems to threaten its productivity. Some of the worst hit are farms along the Fadama from River Katsina to River Benue, including a 19-hectare rice farm in Makurdi, the state capital. To this end, the International Fund for Agricultural Development organized a review meeting with farmers in Guma local government area of the state to appraise the 2022 farming season and share their experiences.
I've benefited from nutrition too in gas, and farming of rice I've also benefited. But I can say this gas is what has made all these things we learned in IFAD, because IFAD is all about farming.
We heard from the chairman of the Commodity Alliance Forum, which is a forum that was set up by VCDP in order to facilitate interactions between service providers, farmers. Service providers here, I mean input dealers, the farmers themselves, the off-takers. So it is an alliance of service providers.
After the meeting, the team moves to the government house to meet with Governor Sanwo-Olu to work out some ways of assisting affected farmers. They also hold discussions on the successes of IFAD's value chain development program and the recently announced $5 million grant.
This is not for Benue State alone. $5 million US. Thank you very much, Your Excellency. But this is supposed to be for investments. So it's not likely to be the humanitarian type of assistance that is provided.
Governor Tom highlights some of the fears of farmers in the state.
I hope that in 2023 farming cropping period, we will not have this similar thing we had in 2012. Because people are very apprehensive. They are worried. That maybe if they do the same commitment to their farms, flooding will still come.
Farmers across states are hopeful that they will benefit from the $5 million donation from IFAD to help them recover their losses. They're also appealing to IFAD to approach experts on subsequent flood predictions to help them plan ahead of the 2023 farming season.
Meanwhile, the Taraba State Governor, Darius Ishaku, is asking the federal government to support the state in reawakening agriculture and the livelihood after the devastating flood that ravaged several farmlands and infrastructure this year in his state. According to the governor, without bias in party, Taraba has the capacity to meet the rice needs of the country if supported by the APC government. He insists that he has completed his task as governor and according to his campaign promises within 7 years and has equally laid the foundation in all ramifications for subsequent administration in the state to build on.
We have a devastating flood. Taraba is one of the most affected in terms of flood. We are supplying almost all the rice in this country, and all of it was submerged. So of course there are challenges, and no aid has come to us. Most times we needed aid. We can supply this country with the rice need. The whole rice need this country need. If we are properly in Taraba supported, we will supply the rice need. You don't need to go out anywhere and import rice. If that is done thoroughly and properly, without bias to whichever party you belong. Government is government. We are all Nigerians, irregardless of our party. We only wear party jerseys to perform. In all ramifications, we finish our work in 7 years. All that I promised you on the 29th of 2015 was finished a year ago. All the incoming administration will do is to build on that foundation. And surprisingly, this was done with almost nothing at hand. We have meager resources, we use it and manage it thoroughly well to be able to achieve the things that were achieved.
Over to Rivers State, where the state government this evening conferred the state's highest award on 17 individuals. The 17 persons include the PDP G5 governors, that's Governor Sanwo-Olu of Benue State, Okezie Ikpeazu of Abia State, Seyi Makinde of Oyo State, and Ifeanyi Ugwuanyi of Enugu State. Others are David Umahi of Ebonyi State, Bala Mohammed of Bauchi State, Yahaya Bello of Kogi, and Umaru Fintiri of Adamawa State. Also listed in the category for the highest honor are the former governors Jonah Jang of Plateau, Donald Duke of Cross River, Ayodele Fayose of Ikiti, Ibrahim Idris of Kogi State, Olusegun Mimiko of Ondo State, Theodore Oji of Abia, Ibrahim Dankwambo of Gombe, Adams Oshomole of Edo, and a chieftain of the People's Democratic Party, Olabode George from Lagos. There were other categories of awards for the night in what the state governor, Nyesom Wike, describes as giving honor to whom it's due.
So many people here are honored to them, not that they are only from River State, also those who are from outside River State, who when they hear about River State, they say they will die. They will support River State. So, most of you may have seen governors in APC, former governors in APC, governors of PDP, former governors of PDP, lawyers who have stood firm. Anytime they hear about River State, they take it as if it is their own. So, River State said, look, we must honor them, thank them, for them to continue to be ambassadors and supporters of the development of this state. So don't be surprised. I will tell you how the governors here and former governors are to receive the highest award, which is the Grand Service Star of River State. If you are not a governor, you cannot receive that award. Except you are a president. The only former president who have given this award is the former president, Goodluck Jonathan, and his wife, that who have given this honor. All of you know, we have been fighting battles. We have had lawyers who have committed themselves to us. Not the money. It's not money. If it is money, it would have been difficult, we couldn't have paid. But out of love, look, we'll support you, stand by you. So many cases. Most of you may not know. For over years, Imo State, we've been fighting with them. But now, God has given us back what belongs to us. It's through the lawyers.
Now let's find out what's happening in the world of business with Laddie Williams.
Thanks, Melinda. In business news, the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries and its allies, including Russia, is set to hold its last meeting for 2022 in less than 24 hours. The 34th meeting, which will be held virtually, comes as the cartel assesses the impact of the looming Russian oil price cap on the global oil market. The gathering by the 13 member countries, collectively known as OPEC+, will also assess the impact of China's COVID-19 lockdowns on demand and prices and decide on the next phase of production policy. At the last meeting in October, the first to be held in person since the pandemic, OPEC+ agreed on a surprise 2 million barrel a day production cut. Meanwhile, all futures slipped 1.5% in choppy trading on Friday ahead of OPEC's meeting tomorrow and the EU ban on Russian crude on Monday. An economic think tank, a financial derivatives company, says it expects Nigeria's inflation to climb further to 21.35% in November ahead of official data from the National Bureau of Statistics. In its latest forecast, FDC says the increase, which is an uptick from 21.09% recorded in October, will be the 10th consecutive monthly rise and Nigeria's highest inflation level in 17 years, with core sub-index projected at 17.92%, while food inflation is seen lower at 23.42% on harvest effect. The economic advisory firm cites exchange rates pass-through effect on commodity prices, supply chain disruptions, and election spending as the major culprits for the increased inflation outlook. Meanwhile, the NBS is expected to release the November inflation report on Thursday, December 15th. And the Edo State government's national scale long-term and short-term issuer ratings have been certified BBB and A3 status each for the first time, with stable economic outlook by Africa's leading rating agency, GCR Ratings. According to GCR, the rating reflects the state's moderately diversified economy and improved operating performance with strong agricultural base. However, GCR says the rating strengths are counterbalanced by the state's continued dependence on federal transfers and its elevated debt. Edo State, which is one of Nigeria's largest palm oil producers, is both an agrarian and oil-producing state with agriculture as its economic mainstay, while its crude production accounts for 2.06% of the nation's total oil output. From there now, let's take a look at the activities at the domestic stock market. Its sentiments ended the week on a positive note as the index recorded a 1.26% gain despite some sell pressure by investors. The gain, which translates to 326.97 billion naira, is largely attributed to bargain interest in high-value equities such as Airtel Africa, MTN Nigeria, and GTCO, with support from other gainers. Stocks performance across the 5 key sectors of the NGX was mixed, with the banking, insurance, as well as oil and gas counter in the green, while consumer and industrial goods counter of the NGX closed in the red. Thomas Wyatt led a pack of 36 other gainers, up with more than 22% gain on its share price, while Beta Glass led 24 other losers, down by 9.9%, while 95 equities remained unchanged in prices. Meanwhile, the shares of Regency Alliance, FBN Holdings, and FCMB Group were the most significant contributors to more than 839 million shares traded within the week. And that's it on business news. Back to Melinda with the rest of the news.
Lionel Messi produced a moment of magic on his 1,000th career appearance as two-time champions Argentina beat Australia 2-1 to reach the World Cup quarterfinals. After a brilliant move in the opposition half, Messi got on the score sheet in the 35th minute, while Julian Alvarez punished Matt Ryan's mistake to double their advantage. Australia pulled one back with 13 minutes remaining, but were unable to draw level with Argentina, who had many chances to increase the lead in the dying moments. And as for the Netherlands, they survived the late scare against the United States to move into the 2022 World Cup finals after a 3-1 victory. In the 10th minute, when Memphis Depay crowned a magnificent 21-pass move by turning in Denzel Dumfries' cross to give the Orange Boys the lead. Danley Blind arrived with perfect timing on the end of another Denzel cutback to increase the lead. The U.S. pulled the goal back in the 76th minute as Haji Wright's freak deflection from a cross looped in at the far post. Louis van Gaal's side restored their 2-goal lead 5 minutes later when Denzel turned scorer, side-footing in a volley at the far post from Blind. And Dutch fans in Qatar are ecstatic, celebrating their team victory over the United States. Dutch fans at the Khalifa International Stadium sang songs and jubilated after the win, which secured passage to the quarterfinals. Outside the stadium, the fans also expressed sorrow for the United States.
No, they play very well. They play very well. Actually, the US team played very well, I have to say. It was an exciting game. We enjoyed watching it. Yeah.
Atmosphere was really good, and the USA played really well. So I feel sorry for them, but I'm glad Netherlands won.
England manager Gareth Southgate admits round of 16 opponents at the World Cup, Senegal, have a really good squad. Southgate believes his players understand what must be done to achieve victory against the Teranga Lions. England are unbeaten against African teams in 20 encounters, but they have never met Senegal.
We know that they're African champions, very proud, great competitive spirit, a lot of belief in the team, some excellent individual players who can cause problems, but a good structure to the team as well. So I think Aliou has done a fantastic job. They were very unlucky not to qualify from the group in Russia, and you know, they've deservedly done it this time, so we know exactly the size of the task ahead of us.
A new medical report released by Sao Paulo's Albert Einstein Hospital reveals that Brazil legend Pelé remains in stable condition after being hospitalized earlier this week as he battles colon cancer. The latest medical note came after reports earlier in the day that the three-time World Cup winner had been receiving palliative care after chemotherapy stopped having the expected results. The legend has also responded well to treatment for a respiratory infection diagnosed this week, and his condition has not worsened in the last 24 hours. The Nigeria Shooting Federation has confirmed that new equipment has been installed for use by athletes at the Delta 2022 National Sports Festival. The federation says the new electronic scoring system will help them view their scores and their final performance at the championships. Over 200 shooters have been confirmed to feature in the competition, currently holding at the multipurpose hall of the Stephen Keshi Stadium in Asaba. South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa will not resign despite a scandal over money stolen from his farm, and that's according to his spokesperson, Vincent Mangwenga. This comes as a panel of legal experts concluded that he has a case to answer. The crisis centers on claims that Mr. Ramaphosa kept large sums of cash on his property, then covered it up with theft. However, his spokesperson suggests that he would fight on and would seek a second term as leader of his ANC party rather than quit. The scandal erupted in June when a former South African spy chief, Arthur Fraser, filed a complaint with the police accusing the president of hiding $4 million stolen in cash from his game farm in 2020. Russia says it will not accept a cap on prices for its oil exports approved by Western allies. The price cap, which was approved on Friday, is aimed at stopping countries paying more than $60 for a barrel of seaborne Russian crude oil. However, Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov said that Moscow had prepared for the move and was assessing its options. The price cap, due to come into force on Monday, was put forward in September by the G7 group of industrialized nations in a bid to hit Moscow's ability to finance the war in Ukraine. The United States Air Force has unveiled its newest nuclear stealth bomber, that's the B-21, which will gradually replace aircraft first flown in the Cold War. The B-21 Rider was unveiled during a ceremony on Friday at the manufacturer North Grumman's facility in California. The first new bomber in 30 years, which will eventually replace the B-1 and B-2 models, could cost nearly $700 million each and can carry nuclear and conventional weapons. The U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin said the plane would offer significant advances over existing bombers in the U.S. fleet, stating that even the most sophisticated air defense systems will struggle to detect the B-21 in the sky. And the main news again. The PDP presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar today said persons living with disabilities will have a prominent place in his government if elected as president in 2023. Also today, the APC presidential candidate Bola Tinubu left the country for the United Kingdom ahead of his engagement at the Chatham House, where he's billed to speak on security, economy and foreign relations. We also brought you a report that Labour Party presidential candidate Peter Obi is set to unveil his manifesto tagged "It's Possible" to Nigerians on Sunday. And Russia has said that it will not accept a cap on prices for its oil exports approved by Western allies. That's the news at 10 tonight. I'm Melinda Akinlami. On behalf of the team, good night.